Good morning, cat fanatics. How are we all today? I'm just getting set up here. And we'll just check to make sure we've got some audio and all that sort of stuff. It all seems to be looking like it's working reasonably well. You never can tell with technology whether it's going to work or not. So we'll just give it a few minutes to make sure it's all working okay. While we're just waiting for a few people to pop online here, I want to do a big thank you to those people who have been watching these cat chats on Facebook. They do get published to YouTube afterwards as well. So it's making some content over there as well, but they're being watched a lot on Facebook and shared a lot. So that's fantastic. So if you're finding them really good, please feel free to share them on your pages and on your personal pages and all that sort of stuff. Anything that can help get the word out about responsible cat ownership is going to be awesome. All right, so today we are talking about some myths surrounding desexing cats. Now, there's a lot of times when I'm out and about and talking to people about cats and all that sort of thing. Oh, good morning, Rebecca. How are you going? So when I'm out and about talking about cats and things, it's amazing what you actually hear from people as to the reasons why they don't desex their cats. Now, if you have a pedigree cat, for starters, unless you're an actual registered, committed breeder to that particular breed, you should never be able to buy a pedigree cat that's not desexed. All breeders will only sell, well, the good, proper, decent breeders will only sell animals to you that are desexed, microchipped, and vaccinated. No ifs or buts about it. So if somebody's going to sell you an undesexed kitten, then it's quite possible that they might not be doing the right thing and it might not be a good option for you to look at. Now, one of the things we really focus a little bit more on the domestic side of things with desexing, because the breeders really should have that under control. You should not, like I said, you shouldn't be able to buy a undesexed kitten from a breeder. So I want to look a little bit at what some of the rescue organisations really focus on, and that is those cats that are not pedigree cats. They're moggies, they're domestic, whether they're short hair, long hair, you know, it doesn't matter what colour they are or whatever. These are the cats that people have got at home and they don't want to desex them or for whatever reason, and they're the ones that breed. Now, I've even got a friend of mine who every year her parents go away on a bit of a holiday. They're retired, and every year they come back, there's a litter of kittens in their backyard. Now, they've actually tried to catch this cat numerous times, and as soon as they arrive home within a day or two, she's moved them somewhere else. She moves her nest. So she knows that they're going to try and catch her. Now, this particular cat has probably had, 10, maybe 10 litters there, which if you look at it over 10 years or even less, if you're looking at sort of, 5 to 7 litters on average over that time, you're looking between 50 and 70 kittens over a 10-year period. Now, those kittens are not necessarily going to have a very good life. A lot of them get picked off by birds of prey and other predators. They get hit by cars. Some of them simply will starve to death once mum finishes feeding them and they've got to look after themselves. So these unwanted litters and unowned cats that are out there in the world are actually causing a lot of problems with the numerous numbers of domestic kittens that are out there available every year. And my hat goes off to those rescue places that actually look after these kittens, raise them, find them homes. It's a wonderful job that they're doing. But it would be so much better if they didn't have so many little souls to actually care for. Once they're born, there's nothing you can do about it, but there is things that we can do to stop that happening. Now, 10 years ago, it was pretty typical that, your cats would run the neighbourhood, they'd do whatever they like, whether you got them desexed or not was irrelevant, but times are changing and we really need to focus on making sure that the world is a safer and better place for all cats And in order to do that, we actually need to reduce the numbers of unwanted litters, accidental litters, and things of that nature, because it's just not fair on the cats in general. So let's have a look at some of the myths surrounding why people don't get their cats neutered and why they believe that it's okay not to. So one of the first ones is that they believe that it will change the character of their cat. Now, this actually isn't a myth, but it's not really what you think. When you desex a cat, it does change their hormone levels. So yes, it does change them to a certain extent. But in males, it usually makes them less aggressive and more of a good cat to have around the place. They don't spray or anything like that. And the females are the same. When females go into season, they go pretty nutty actually. They roll around and they go crazy and they'll do anything to get out to a mate. So it removes those fluctuations in the different levels of hormones and that sort of thing in the body of the animals, but it actually allows them to have a calmer life, a happier life. They're not so stressed out. They're not trying to get out to mate. This is an inbuilt instinct into them. It's not something that you can really do anything about it, but by having them desexed, it does allow them not to have to go through those hormones and all that sort of stuff. Now, ladies, I'm sure it doesn't really matter what age you are, those hormones have really wrecked with us. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just calm them all down? Well, that's kind of what we do with cats. We calm all those hormones down so that they can live a happy life. Now, one of the other ones that I hear often is that the pet is too young to desex. Now, we actually have a cat here called Stella, and we still have 2 of her kittens because she was 5 months old when she got out of the house. And guess what? Local Tom is what used to happen, 11 years ago. Now, at that stage, it was quite true that you would usually wait until the kittens were around about 5 to 6 months old to have them desexed. Nowadays, a lot of vets are able to do it between 12 and 16 weeks, and that's why a lot of breeders, or all breeders now, will organise. Yes, Rebecca, menopause is a bitch, I'll agree with that one. All breeders now will actually have those kittens desexed between 12 and 16 weeks because the technology and veterinary science has come a long way in the last 10 years. So it's very safe for a young animal to be desexed. Now, there's also the pain to consider. When the kittens are young and they're desexed, they don't remember it. Can you remember falling off your bike when you were 3? No, you can't. Can you remember falling on your bum when you're trying to learn to walk? No, you can't. Desexing is an anaesthetic that they go under. The females obviously have a bit more of a surgery than what the boys do, but there's only a little bit of discomfort, so they get over it really, really quickly. So my pet is too young? Not anymore, it's not. My cat will get fat. Now, I love this one because, I'm probably a little bit on the weighty side at the moment myself and would love to lose a few kilos. And I can tell you one thing, it's got nothing to do with whether I'm desexed or not. And it's got nothing to do with my hormones and all that sort of stuff. When you're actually looking at desexed cats, the reason that they put on weight is for 2 reasons. One, they're not getting enough exercise. They're lying around the place and they're not being played with enough. You're not actually getting them active enough and giving them things to do. Number 2, they eat too much. There's too much food available for them. So cats, it's quite interesting that people seem to feel like we should just feed our cats constantly. And we've got 9 cats, so we have to be very careful and make sure that they all get fed and make sure that they're all fed the right amount and not too much and not too little. And yes, we do have a couple of fatter old cats around the place, but overall they're all not too bad. So you have to be really careful not to overfeed your cats. That is the real reason why cats get fat and lazy. So my next one. Now, this is a really interesting one. I love my pets and I want to have another one just like them. Sorry, this is not about the pet. This is about your attachment to them. And this is a really unfair thing because every single animal out there is their own little soul, their own little person, and we need to enjoy that little person. And there's all sorts of things that recreate or create a person. You've got your personalities and the experiences they've been through and all sorts of different things. So you could even get a clone of your cat. And if it's brought up differently and the behaviours may be different and there'll be all sorts of differences to it. So when people talk about wanting to breed so that they can replicate the cats that they've got, it's really not about the cat itself. It's about your attachment and how you attach to that animal that you are. And it's really not fair to then try and put one personality of a cat into another cat at a later stage. Okay, my cats don't go outside, so it shouldn't matter. Well, if they're not desexed, first of all, they're going to spray around the house. They're going to be quite all over the place anyway, and they will make a run for the door. Now, when they go into season, or if you've got a male that can smell or feel a female in the air, they will find a way to get out, and that's not helpful at all. So yeah, important stuff. Your cat, whether it's going to be inside or outside, and it shouldn't be outside anyway, if it's just staying inside, it still needs to be desexed. It will live a much happier life because of it. And finally, and this is probably my favourite one, is I don't want my male cat to feel less like a man. Now, I had a really interesting experience a year or two ago when I was at the Royal Adelaide Show. And I was there with Derek Bennett, and Derek Bennett's our neutered Abyssinian who I think is running around here somewhere. Oh no, that's Artemis over there. Now, I had a little boy, he must have been 7 or 8 years old, come up to me, and the first thing he said was, "Is your cat desexed?" And I said, "Yes, he is. He's a neutered Abyssinian," and went on to talk about the breed. And he, out of the mouths of Babe, came, "We have a male cat, but we wouldn't ever put him through that experience of having his balls cut off." And I'm like, okay. And behind him, I could see a very proud father thinking that he'd done the right thing by teaching his son that you don't cut balls off of the male cats. Well, fellas, I hate to tell you this, but cats don't have an ego and they don't care whether they've got nuts or not. It's as simple as that. They really don't care. They don't see the world as we do. They are animals. They don't have that longing to become parents. They don't miss out on anything because they're not parents or they haven't had that experience. So that, again, is coming back to how we feel about ourselves and not what's necessarily best for the actual cat themselves. So there's a few things there that that I think is really important. I'm just thinking if I've missed anything here. Oh, yes. One of the other ones that does come up from time to time is that I have a purebred cat, therefore I should breed because it's a purebred. No, you shouldn't breed. If you're going to breed, you need to have a mentor. You need to make sure that you understand about the breed and the type and the standards that you're breeding to. You need to make sure that the genetics are correct. You need to have some education behind it. You don't just decide that you're going to grab a couple of cats and breed them together. That's not breeding cats. It's very sad that with anything that has competition and money involved can often end up having people in that area that are not necessarily there for the right reasons, which is why you must do your homework if you're looking into breeders. But there's absolutely no reason, unless you're consciously planning to breed because of the right reasons, that you should have a cat that's not desexed. Now, oh, thank you, Erin. I'm glad that you've joined us. Yes, thank you. I think it's great information, and I think it's really important information. I think the information that that we need to get out about good, responsible cat ownership is really considering the cat's well-being first and how we feel about it second. We tend to put a lot of human into our pets, whether it's dogs or cats, and I think we need to start to take a bit of a step back and have a look at what is the best for our animals. Now, if we have a look at all the scientific papers that are out there in regard to animal husbandry and animal welfare, you will find that all this stuff that I'm saying will be backed up by scientific fact. Like, I'm not sitting here making out that I'm, the expert of the world. There's a lot of information scientifically proven out there that demonstrates that all this is really, really important for the cat's well-being. Not for our well-being, but for the cat's well-being. So I think that's probably all I have to say this morning. Thank you again for joining me, and I'm so grateful to the support that I've been getting for the Cat Chats. I'm really excited. I've just started the podcast. So if you're looking it up, you can find it on Spotify or Apple at this point in time, and it's just called the Cat Show Podcast. So I'm going to be putting some of my interviews that I do on CatChat will be going up there, but there's going to be a lot of other really good information. So I think episode 3 went live on Tuesday. Episode 4 is ready to go. So I'm a bit excited about that. And interestingly enough, before I even promoted it, people have started to listen. So I'm very excited about how that will go and how we can get this message of responsible cat ownership out to more and more people. Because let's face it, 25% of the entire population of the world love cats. So we know how awesome they are and how important it is that we look after them. So hopefully what I'm doing is trying to spread that word and make sure that more people understand responsible cat ownership. So till next Thursday, we'll see you later and have a great day and an excellent weekend.